Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 984. My opponent started off here with d4, I went knight f6. He went c4, I went e6, angling for a Nimzo-Indian, and he obliged with knight to c3. So I get my favorite Nimzo-Indian defense, but now he plays a very rare response. Not unheard of, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the fifth move, and you can see it's been played a fair number of times. It's an interesting line. But he kind of plays it wrong. It looks like h6 is the main move. One thing I wanted to point out here is that you can actually play d5. Maybe that's the safe and sane way to play this. If you're not familiar with what's going on, you just transpose back into a queen's gambit declined. And then if he plays knight f3, which looks like a pretty natural move here, then we've gotten into the Rogozin variation of the queen's gambit declined. Although that's a variation I don't really know. So it would not have helped me in any case to do that. So I played h6. It's kind of a questioning move, asking the bishop what it's going to do. Normally the bishop just retreats here. And then c5 is the main follow-up, which I don't know if I would have played c5 or not, but this structure looks pretty comfortable to me. I'm used to playing c5 in the Nimzo-Indian, so perhaps I would have gone with that, but I wouldn't have been confident that that's the way to play it. But anyway, let's see. How would this continue? White could continue with d5. I would block with d6 probably, or maybe throwing in the check first. And then e3 taking. And e5, yeah, just blocking up the center. Opening this diagonal for the bishop. It looks like a decent position for black. Typical Nimzo-Indian kind of position. I could have played all right. But he didn't do that. He didn't retreat his bishop. Instead, he took. I took back very naturally. And then he played e4. And actually, at this point, well, I played e5. We're out of the opening book. But even if I had played d6, you see there's no more lines in the opening book after d6. One interesting point here was, there was this queen a4 tactic which starts to appear after d6. So I was kind of asking myself, what if I play d6 here like the opening book recommends? What happens with this tactic? Well, it turns out you can block like this. He plays d5. He's got a pin here. And so it looks like he's winning a piece. But this diagonal has opened too in that sequence of events. And actually black is just winning. Boom. And white falls apart. So anyway, interesting line. Anyway, I didn't play that. I didn't play d6 here. I played e5, which is actually the top choice of the chess engine. I mean, it's a logical move. He's got a light squared bishop. Maybe you could try and fix the center on light squares. And I'm still okay here. It's not until the next move. I mean, he plays a decent developing move. And I could have responded with knight to c6. That's playable. The best move here is actually taking. And then after he takes back this pawn with the knight, go ahead and take the knight and give him doubled isolated c-pawns. And this is a better than usual Nimzo. By taking out the d-pawn, the c-pawns become isolated. And so that's strongly in favor of black, that position. So this has already gone wrong for white here. But instead I played d6. And this is just a blunder. He can win a piece here. Goes here with check, hitting my loose bishop. I can block the check and defend the bishop, but now I can play d5. And notice this diagonal is closed in this line. This pawn is on e5 instead of on e6 where it was in the previous line. And so there's nothing going on. I mean, I can throw in bishop takes knight check. He takes back, but there's no saving this knight. So I'm just down a piece. So that would be losing. But he didn't play it. Instead, he played d takes e5, and after I took back, then he did the check, but by then it's too late. So we have a pair of mutual blunders. I think Dan Heisman came up with that term, which is surprisingly common. It's like a shared blind spot. You make a mistake, and your opponent ignores it. It results in a mutual blunder. Yeah. Your blunder was the original mistake, and your opponent's blunder was not to notice it and exploit it. Anyway, so I go knight c6 here. It's the only move, but it does save everything. It defends the bishop and blocks the check. So he castled queenside, which is very dangerous at this position, because after I take his knight, which is very natural, it's also the best move in the position. So, but pretty natural move. His pawn structure around his king is in tatters, and he's in big trouble here. So the chess engine thinks black is just winning pretty much from this point on. It gives it about a +2 edge to black, -2 in the way it's displayed here. Anyway, I castle. He plays rook d5. Interesting way to try and develop. If I ever bring my rook over and take his rook, he's going to take back with a pawn and have some nice central pawns. But I'm going to keep those c-pawns doubled and isolated, so I'm not going to do that. Let's see, I went with bishop g4, just getting my pieces off the back rank so I can bring my rooks out to do something in the center if needed. Let's see, he went bishop e2, didn't want to lose some material here on the f3 square. And I went rook a d8, getting this rook into play. And I just didn't want him doubling and then bringing his rook in. So I don't want to take it, but I don't want to give that rook or his rooks free reign on the d file either. So I'm putting my rook here to oppose it. And now he went knight d4, which is just a blunder on his part. This actually loses material. He could play rook h to d1. That's what I was expecting. Let's see, I have the check here. He could block, and I could take a pawn. So that's one way to start realizing my material advantage in this position. So I'm starting to be up material. And let's see, after taking the pawn, the knight. The knight here is defending the rook, I was going to say. Isn't there a problem on d8? But no, the knight is defending the rook as well as the other rook, so everything is okay. Yeah, it just wins a pawn. But that's the best that white has there. Instead, he played knight to d4, which is a blunder that loses material. I can just take that knight, and he took my bishop here. That was his idea. He sacrifices a knight to win the bishop. But there's a tactic here, and if you didn't spot it in the game, here's another chance for you to spot it. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. The tactic is the queen check again. That's twice I overlooked a queen fork in this game. A queen fork against the king, a queen fork with check. So yeah, that's kind of a weird blind spot to have. Those are like the most common tactics, among the most common tactics in chess. So hopefully everybody noticed that. The funny thing is, I played d takes c3 here, and the chess engine doesn't rate this as a blunder. It rates this as a good move. His king is just in massive trouble here, and it doesn't matter that I could have won a piece. This is just winning as well. Let's see, so he'd probably noticed his bishop was hanging at this point and played f3. I still hadn't noticed, honestly. I went with knight d4. Yeah, I was looking at things I could do here to increase the pressure on his king. Maybe I can push this pawn forward and force his rook to move away too, something like that. So he played c5 here. And then I got this idea, well, maybe I need to bring the queen in, which is the right idea. I played queen f4 check. Once again, the best move in the position, but my follow-up wasn't correct. Let's see, he went king to b1. So what's the best continuation here? Yeah, pause the video here if you want some time to think about it, but you should be able to spot this one pretty quickly. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. It is just keep coming in with the queen. I don't know why I didn't play this, because I already had the idea of bringing the queen in. I just didn't see, for some reason, yeah, my vision was not operating. Anyway, the chess engine gives queen b3 is the best move here for white, which is weird. I mean, well, there is a mate threatened there. He's got to defend it somehow, but surely there's other ways to defend. But, well, the problem is, I guess, the queen defends in any other way than then this pawn is coming in with check. And you know, if the knight, if the king, oh, that's right, the king can't step in front of the. Oh, I can take his queen there. Never mind. Yeah, I didn't look at all the lines here, so that just wins the queen. So yeah, maybe he's got trouble trying to find a spot that actually defends against the mate. How about here? New variation. Check. Okay, the queen's not hanging this time at least. King still can't go here. He could run up here. And let's see, I can bring the king in and force the pawn through, I guess, if I haven't got anything better. But yeah, I push the pawn forward with check. That's all that happens there. I push the pawn forward with check if he goes there. So he can't take it. That's probably mate. So, and if he runs to the corner, then I can bring the knight in and force the pawn through that way. So it's all just, or check here. All just massive trouble. for white. Anyway, lots of stuff going on. But I didn't play that. I played c2 check, rushing things a little bit with the pawn. And, well, this is still winning, so it's not actually a blunder, I guess. But not as quickly winning as some of the other lines. Then here I decided to trade rooks, trying to open up a file and bring my other rook into the game. And I'm not so worried about his pawns in the center at the moment. Let's see, he continued with, no, it's my turn. I played queen f6. Yeah, setting up this discovered attack on the king. Actually, the best move here, it's one of those computer lines that's a little hard to understand at first. It gives b6. You would think this is not really relevant to the game at all, but there's actually a big threat here. If white lets me take the pawn, the queen comes in and then this pawn marches forward, and his king is in big trouble. So he should play c6 here, and then the queen comes into d2. This is even stronger than the immediate queen d2. He brings his rook over to stop me from queening, and now I can bring my rook in because his queen has been blocked off from this diagonal, and my rook can come in easily, and that is the quickest win. And kind of a clever move by the chess engine. Not something I would have thought of, playing b6 in a position like this. That's very counterintuitive. Anyway, yeah, I played queen f6, setting up this cool discovered attack on his king. So he steps out of the way. Well, actually, he's still in line with the discovered attack, but I didn't find anything really great here. I played knight b5, and he took the pawn. I mean, it was a double check, so he didn't have time to take my knight. And then I brought my queen in with check. I saw that I could do this much, and I figured this must be great. And it is. It is still winning for me. King d1. Let's see, I brought the knight into d4. Played rook e1. I went to queen d3. Played king to c1. And now I play a move that actually gives the game away, or at least allows white to draw. So what I should do here is I should continue checking. So knight e2 check. First of all, if the king runs, it only has one square to run to. And then you have this queen check here. King has to go back to b1 now. And then you can grab the rook. So that is pretty clear. Or after knight e2 check, he can just take the knight, give up the exchange here, and I take back. And this is also a winning position with his exposed king. And now my queen is on this file, so I can easily bring my rook into the game. So also a simple win. So that's the way to continue here. And I didn't spot that idea. I was thinking about this knight e2 move, but I just couldn't figure out quite where it led. So I played rook to d8 here, trying to bring my rook in by taking a pawn on the d file, because he owns the e file. His queen and his rook are coordinating on that e8 square, so I can't really oppose it there. But this allows him to draw with rook e8 check. And now the funny thing is, the drawing line is not to exchange, but actually to move my king to the side like this, giving up the rook. So this is weird, but I'll give you best play here. I think the problem is the queen and the knight are too strong around the king there. So chess engine gives this line bishop check, which is just a pure sacrifice of a piece to distract my my knight for the moment. Then taking, then the the knight goes back to d4, the rook comes back to e8, and then after queen c3 check, it says black has a draw here, and that's how it should end. The other idea here, if I after the check, if I trade, this is what I was thinking, and step my king here. My queen is guarding this diagonal, so he doesn't have a check, but of course he can force the trade. And I can bring my king out. And this is an endgame. Yeah, the material is even. It's knight versus bishop, though, with pawns on both sides. This is an endgame that favors white. The fact that it's knight versus bishop is one factor, and the fact that he has these advanced pawns in the center is another reason why this is favorable to white, but not necessarily win. I could play this and hope to hold a draw, or even if he makes a mistake, turn it around. It's still a complicated game, but anyway, he didn't play that. He played rook to d1, chasing my queen. Probably he thought he was just winning a knight here, and it was clearer than some of these other lines he was looking at, where it was at best to draw, or a long end game. So he thought, well, if he could just win a piece here in the middle game, that would that would turn things around for him. But it doesn't work here, because I have the queen check, and let's see, he stepped aside, and then I can take here. I finally get my rook in the game and defend my knight. And yeah, he's just lost from here. I still have to be careful at a couple of spots. He does get this queen e8 check. I run here. And now the bishop check is, oh, it's what he played. I have to be careful here, because if I take the knight, which is maybe my first instinct, what I'd been planning from before, but I've got a loose rook here. And if he takes the rook, then this is once again a situation where materially white is ahead, but in fact it's the chess engine rates this as even, so probably there's some kind of perpetual check here with the knight and the queen against his open king. So he can't hope to win this, but he could maybe hope to draw. But I had spotted that idea, and I took with the rook. So that's like third time in the game I found the best move. So I did. In spite of those two blunders, I did find some good moves. And then the rest of the game, I won't say it's uneventful, but I didn't make any huge blunders after this. Particularly after we get into the end game, I keep a winning edge all the way through, although there were certainly better ways to play that at times. Here, I'm just trying to step through this. Don't jump ahead. Let's see, let's get to the last exchange. Yeah, he just traded off and went into the end game. We were both low on time at this point, so it's an expedient thing to do to go for the end game. But it is a winning end game for black with 2 pawns up, and no defects in my pawn structure. So, wow, it did it again. Let's see if I can step through this without it doing that. Check. Yeah. Okay. Let's just keep stepping through it. I give up some pawns, but I get some activity here, and I grab one of his pawns. So at the end, yeah, I'm still 2 pawns up here. And I trade down to this position, and he resigns. He can win this pawn. He could have gone ahead and taken it. What's going to happen here is that I'm going to just push this pawn through. Maybe bring the rook over here and push it through that way. If he ever comes over here to attack this pawn, he can trade out, but his king will be out of play. It'll be too far away to stop the rook pawn from queening. So even though a rook pawn is often a draw, in this case, because his king is so far away, it's going to be a win for black. So pretty straightforward endgame. And he resigned. Anyway, interesting game. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye.